種族
I've invaded your world to talk to you about Dark Souls, or Soulsborne, or whatever we started calling it since Sekiro came out. Now, of course, the Soulsborne fans have been kind of running wild lately because we got the announcement of Demon Souls Remastered, or Remake. We're not really sure. I'm pretty sure it's just a remaster. I think it's going to be the same game with prettier graphics and better UI, but I digress. Considering how iconic it is, the franchise has really only been around for a little bit over 10 years. And it's as good a time as any to be a fan of the series, and I'm going to tell you why. You got Demon Souls, which you could buy a PS3 and a copy of the game and play now, or you could wait for the far superior remaster that'll be coming out soon for the PS5. I mean, like this, it looks so good. And some people say that they like the original Demon Souls better from the screenshots we've seen. Demon Souls was kind of an oddball when it came out because the idea of a game that just mercilessly beats you into the ground was kind of a fresh idea at that point. I mean, sure, you could go back and play all the classic NES games that were kind of bullshit on purpose, but that doesn't really count. And that is not to say that the Soulsborne franchise invented difficulty, okay? I'm not Mr. Crash Bandicoot is the Dark Souls of platforming. Games have been hard for a long time and not always in an unfair way. Demon Souls just kind of brought together a lot of things that made a good game, and unfortunately it wasn't crazy popular, but do you know what was crazy popular? Dark Souls. Dark Souls was when the franchise really just kind of exploded onto the scene. Demon Souls was a nice little setup, and Dark Souls was a slam dunk. Everything from the story to how it was told, to the characters, to the gameplay, to all the weapons and stuff you could unlock, all the different ways you could play the game, the PvP, which was kind of busted. For some reason, Dark Souls PvP fans have a thing against you using the main attack button as like a way to beat them. Like, you get made fun of if you press the R1 button a lot. I will not make fun of you for that because that's what I do. I do not know the specific number of frames that each attack for every weapon in the game does. I don't know when I can roll cancel out of an attack. I am a nerd, just not that much of one. You see, the whole premise of all the Dark Souls games really boils down to light versus dark, and deciding, do you want to fight against the darkness and postpone basically the apocalypse, or do you want to fast forward to the apocalypse as fast as possible and just get it over with? Unless, of course, you're playing Dark Souls 2, where I don't understand anything that's happening. Dark Souls 2, as anybody who's a fan of the series can tell you, it's the weird one. But for me, it was my first Dark Souls game, and after kind of a rough honeymoon period, I totally fell in love with it. It's got the rather rough system of taking away your maximum health little by little every time you die until you use a particular item to replenish it. But if you run out of those items or you're really low on them and you die over and over, eventually you really don't have much of a health bar left. And you may be thinking, well, the game must do something to counteract that, right? Like there's less enemies, but you have less health. No. No. The game is fun though. It's got some beautiful landscapes, some memorable bosses, some not very memorable bosses. In fact, it's got a lot of not very memorable bosses, whether it be because they're too easy or they're just bland. I gotta be fair, the only bosses that I really remember are the final boss and the one where you fight a bunch of rats. And the very first boss, because he has an asshole for a face. Then we move on to Dark Souls 3, which is by far my favorite title in the series. It had a smooth mixture of just everything that made the first two games good. It's got great story. It tells it better than the other games did. It's got so many different weapons and so many different weapon arts and stuff that they can all do. There's boss weapons. All of the bosses are fun. The game is constantly getting all different kinds of crazy mods that people make up for it, which is very similar to the Sonic series, which I covered in my last video, which you should go watch. Again, very similar themes of light versus dark and blah blah blah, all that, but this one is a little bit closer to the end of the world, which is fitting because it is supposed to be the last game in the Dark Souls series. Almost all of the options except for kindling the first flame really do seem to put a definitive end on the game. Now, I say that Dark Souls 3 is my favorite game in the Dark Souls series, but honestly, my favorite FromSoftware game? Gotta be Bloodborne. Bloodborne was kind of a little bit of a departure from the usual Dark Souls formula, although it was very similar. You see, Dark Souls is a lot of, get a couple attacks in, roll away, put your shield up, kind of playing a lot of offense and defense. And Bloodborne is just about beating the ever-loving shit out of everything around you, because even though enemies hurt you, if you hurt them, you get health back, and you can carry way more healing items, but you only have a finite amount of them. So if you run out of blood vials, which you use to heal yourself, and you don't have more in your storage when you respawn or travel to a new place, you don't get more. You have to go buy them or find them, which is one minor annoyance. Just one thing. Only thing I didn't like. But man, that game is so visceral and beautiful, and it's just everything is all gothic and cool looking and all these different locales, and there's aliens and all these weird kind of almost Lovecraftian creatures that you fight. It's weird and I love it. Weird shit is good. And you can have a blunderbuss, which automatically makes the game better. And I thought we were going to get Bloodborne 2 when we got the teaser for Sekiro, but we ended up getting Sekiro, and even though I was a little upset it wasn't Bloodborne 2, they ended up making up for it because Sekiro is amazing. For the first time, at least in a while for a FromSoftware game, you actually play a specific character. You don't create a character or anything. You are Sekiro. And you got this crazy bionic arm thing that's made out of metal and wood, and you can grapple onto ledges like you're Spider-Man. And the game, even more than Bloodborne, is about being on the offense. You have got to wear enemies down to the point where they can't defend themselves, and then you drive your sword into their neck or their head until they die. It's awesome. Now that game's a little bit more recent, and I don't want to spoil anything for people because I'm sure plenty of people that do want to play it maybe just haven't gotten around to it yet, so I'm not going to spoil that one too much, but it's good. It is damn good. And then you got Elden Ring, which looks like Dark Souls 4 from what we've seen so far, which unfortunately is not much. I think a lot of us would have liked to have seen some Elden Ring something or other during the PS5 event, but we got the Demon Souls remastered trailer, and I'm okay with that. Now again, much like Sonic, Dark Souls would be nothing without the fans. And by Dark Souls, I mean Soulsborne, Akiro, Ring series. There are so many content creators on YouTube and elsewhere that make amazing art based on Dark Souls, that make funny montage videos on YouTube. And I couldn't possibly talk about Dark Souls content creators without talking about VatiVidya. He makes these lore videos about Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro. They are so amazingly good. His voice is just... And beyond fan content, there's other games that follow the Soulsborne formula for gameplay. You got games like The Surge 1 and 2, which is, kind of like future Souls in a way. The gameplay is a little bit different, and it's got its own unique system where you can cut body parts off of enemies and then use them as your own. But the style of gameplay is very much in line with Dark Souls. You got Lords of the Fallen, which is like Dark Souls if it was bad. There are some comparisons that are a little bit of a stretch, like comparing Hollow Knight to Dark Souls, which is almost sorta kinda true in some regard, with how you have limited healing options, and the checkpoint system is very similar to Bonfires. But aside from that, it's more so a Metroidvania style game. A very good one, which you should go play. There are also tons, and I mean tons, of really bad Soulsborne-ish kind of games that people have attempted to make on Steam. You should really go and look for them, and maybe try them if they're free or very cheap, and then return them after, because hoo boy, some people really do not have an idea as to what actually makes Dark Souls games good. They think they do, they don't. So looking to the past for games that you can play now, if you haven't tried any of them, there's Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. There's the original Demon Souls on PS3 if you can get your hands on it, or you can wait for the remaster. There's Bloodborne, which is it's definitely the best one out of all of the games. It is the most unique, and it's go play it. There's Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which is a fantastic game with its own unique mechanics that deserves a playthrough. And then looking towards the future, we've got Elden Ring, which I am extremely excited for because, like I said, it kind of looks like it's a kind of a Dark Souls 4 kind of thing. It won't be, but I'm thinking it'll be close. Oh, holy shit, I almost forgot to mention Neo. Go play Neo. And Neo 2. Oh, and don't be surprised if once you get into this series, your entire life becomes consumed by this series because it's so good, man. It is so engrossing. It's so beautiful. There is a reason that there are so many diehard fans of this franchise. Please go and give it a chance. If you haven't already, don't be intimidated by the whole get good thing. Also, everybody that tells people to get good, stop it. You're gatekeeping. We all need to lift our Estus flasks, our blood vials, whatever the thing is from Sekiro, I forget, sorry. Just take them, lift them up, have a good old toast, and enjoy Soulsborne Akira Ring. That's all for today. Make sure you tune into the next video where I just suck FromSoftware's dick for another 12 minutes.